The backlog summer sale is coming pretty soon. This is the Steam summer sale. They've already started sending out emails. They usually put everything on a calendar and they inform people who have developer accounts that this is a thing that's coming. They even have like an overview documentation over here. They literally have a seasonal sales documentation for devs. This is what makes Steam very unique. You can see a lot of this stuff openly. I didn't have to sign into anything if you notice. So you can just basically go see what this is all about and you can start saving your coins or putting your coins together for, these seasonal sales as time goes on. In fact, they got the whole freaking thing planned out through, winter sale, which is, December 18th of this year through January 5th of next year. But here's the thing that really does make this a whole fun enterprise. As they're announcing this stuff right now, a good number of developers are still taking advantage of sales based on announcements, based on upcoming games. For instance, Borderlands developers. For instance, what are their names? Did I hit top sellers? I meant to hit specials. Koei Tecmo and all of these folk. These guys are all, the developers of the Ark game here. They're all literally advertising their games and discounting old games as, they're basically, as time is going on. And many of them will still jump into the summer sale. Now, the summer sale is one that a lot of gamers have been have always traditionally looked forward to in terms of what games they're going to buy or what games they're looking for, how much the games are going to go on sale, and so on and so forth. It's actually quite interesting to see how it is, but here's what's happened. We've reached a saturation point that I strongly believe, yes, many people are going to participate in this summer sale. That's for sure, right? But I think this is probably a lot of the cycle that people leverage nowadays in terms of how they buy their games, in terms of how they actually deal with the market. Because you can think about these games as, say, really cool and really exciting and really, innovative or whatever it is. But just now everybody is getting into the game. And to me, it's really weird to just see how, even big AAA titles that used to hold their, in quote, value long enough, or, back in the day when they would stay expensive for a long time, right? No longer can they afford to do that, or no longer do they want to do that because the competition is just wild. Let me give you a kind of a vivid example about this software thing and how it plays out. You launch a game at $60, 5 million people buy it at launch. You're ecstatic, right? You make your $300 million. You pay your 30% fees across the board because you're a third-party developer, right? So out of that 300 million that you make, let's go ahead and multiply that by that 30%, right? You put out, you give away 90 million. You spend 90 million in cost for, third-party publishing. That's not including your developers. If you used Unreal Engine, you'd have been paying an extra 4% on that $210-ish million that you have left, right? Just think about it. You sold that $5 million at the $60 price point, but you gotta still keep making money, right? So what do you want to do? You need another, 100-ish million coming into your hand every year. So you start to depreciate your asset in terms of reducing its cost for the gamer. So rather than that $60 price tag, like you see here with Dragon's Dogma 2, I don't know if anybody was looking at it. There we go. $29.99, right? That's what they're selling it on here, $29.99, right? So you say, okay, I'm doing $29.99. I think after you sell so many copies, I think Steam will let you reduce that percentage after a while, which even still hooks you up a little bit, right? You say, well, let's go $29.99, right? And let's see what another 5 million units is going to do for me, which is not going to come in as fast because hype is dead and everything. It gives you the $149 million, dollars in sales. Well, you go ahead and you pay your 30% from that, and now you're sitting at basically 105-ish, 104-ish million. That's exactly what these developers are doing here. Now, the game stays on the market long enough, they still want to pull in another $100 million in sales for this game, right? So they move it even further down. Oh my gosh, you're thinking, how much further can they? There's $15.99. You guys forget that numbers exist that are lower than $29.99. They do another 5 million, copies, right? And bam, they're in $79 million. Hold on, you're probably going, well, no, be quiet. They're gonna do a DLC for $29.99. Did you forget? Oh my gosh. And then the DLC probably pushed 2 to 5 million units. And the game that I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen, you already know the game. I don't know why we're all pretending that Cyberpunk 2077 did not leverage this. I paid $18 for my copy of Cyberpunk 2077. When it launched, I bought it on Good Old Games full price, right? There were complaints about some issues and all that stuff. So what I said was, man, if I don't want to get to the 4-hour mark or whatever it is that Good Old Games will give you a refund and then go find some bug. So I refunded it and I waited and I held off. Well, I went on CD Keys. I could get a copy for $18. Good Old Games. I got it. Right? Right now, they're not selling the game on it. The game is not discounted, but once the Steam sale comes around, something that sold 30 million units, it didn't sell all 30 million units at $60 a pop. Don't get me wrong. Right? It took a similar approach in terms of what we've been calculating here. So because of this particular notion, now you're starting to see this. Now, here's the thing. All the stuff that I just did in terms of this calculation, as hypothetical or, anecdotal as it could be, this is happening faster and faster. This discounting paradigm is happening much faster than usual. In some instances, brand new games that launch on Xbox's platforms give discounts to Game Pass users. Like instantly. You instantly get a discount, not even when it launches, before the freaking game launches. What's the next thing coming out on Xbox? Ninja Gaiden 4. To buy the game, let's go ahead and look at the editions that are available. Go to game. To buy the game, in some cases, hold on, this is still far out. Let's look at something newer. What is the newest thing? Doom. Let's look at Doom: The Dark Ages. You already get a discount. Now, it's not a big discount. It's just 10% off with your Game Pass, Xbox Game Pass membership. Right? But it's a new game. Newish game. You're getting a discounted version of a brand new game. In fact, let's go back to and they do this with a lot of AA titles as well. The Alters. The Alters just recently launched, right? And it launched with a launch discount all the way through June 27th. This has been happening more frequently with AA games and such, but what you're seeing, guys, is a result, in my opinion, of a saturated gaming market that now developers have to be much more hyper competitive. Look at the growth year on year with game releases on Steam. Look at it. From 2014, when there were 1,713 games, the average number has basically exponentially grown. That is wild. Right now, we are at 8,477 games. And we have not yet finished the half of the year. And this year seems to be slower than last year. Last year was a phenomenon, I guess. But this year is looking really wild because it might beat out last year in terms of new game releases. In some cases, maybe a remaster or a remake or whatever it is. So you're going to continue to see this trend as time goes on, where within a few months, you're going to see a game that came out brand new, when in the past, this was not always the case. In fact, it was hard to see this, right? Where a brand new game that just came out would already be discounted within a few months of its launch. And it doesn't really matter the success level too, in many cases. Now, in some cases, yeah, the games will maintain their price point. But what I've seen is, it's not really based on that. I'm sure we'll probably see this on a Steam sale when the Steam sale comes around. I say I'm sure. I have a high level of certainty. I shouldn't say I'm sure. I don't know anything about it. But this is what we're seeing right now, where games are basically discounted using different viable means. And gamers can basically leverage and worm their way through this to the benefit of their wallets. Talk to me in the comment section. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.